The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gam Podcast Network is brought to you by Arctic Fantasy. The brand new offer for new customers. Play just $5 to $100 bonus funds. Use promo code SGPN. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Game Podcast here on the Sports Game Podcast Network. It is currently Saturday night, October 4th, around 7:40 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm your host, always, Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Time to get into the preview of the third round here in Shanghai. Going to break down some, not all, of the matches coming up on Sunday and Monday. Before we get into the actual breakdown of those matches and for a recap what happened in the last episode, a reminder, support the show, like and subscribing on YouTube, and reminder, also be rating and review on Spotify or Apple. Podcast you can find, once again, on video format or audio format. Support us either way. On YouTube, like, subscribe, and for Spotify and Apple, leave a rating and a review. Pause reminder, you can check out the merch store on the SGPN website. We have a lot of great tennis merch. We have sweatshirts, we have t-shirts, and we have mugs. And a reminder, you can also check out all of the podcasts for SGPN in one easy location, free of charge. Check out the SGPN app. Once again, free to download. Get wherever you do, get your apps. But you can find all of our picks and podcasts in one easy location. Go to the SGPN app in the App Store today. Anyway, so getting into the recap of the second round here in Shanghai. We had a really bad first round. Ended up losing the lock and dog, but we bounced back. Nice sweep for us as we ended up having Rune in straight sets as the lock at minus 150. Bit juicy, bit sweaty, but it got there as he ended up beating Baez in straight sets. For the dog, nice win. We ended up having Hanfman money line at plus 140 as beat Tiafoe in 3 sets. So that one was a bit dicey, I'd say, based on the score line. But Tiafoe rolled over after the first set, and Hanfman won the last 2 sets 6-2, 6-1. So really not too much drama into the back end of that match, but a nice win at plus 140 fading Tiafoe, and we faded Baez on hard court, got the job done. Nice sweep there for the second round. Going to try to keep rolling here for the third round, and hopefully, once again, we end up making the right picks. Anyway, getting into the recap of the second round. Starting off with the matches that ended up happening on Friday. Thought Shelton was in danger against Goffin because Goffin was looking okay. Shelton hadn't played since the shoulder injury in the U.S. Open, came back prematurely, got buried 6-2, 6-4. Then after the loss, Shelton withdrew from doubles. So clearly Shelton wasn't feeling it. He might be done for the rest of the season. We'll see what happens. But either way, Shelton came back and lost, only winning 6 games against Goffin as a decent favorite. So Diallo beat Bonzi. Hanfman ended up beating Tiafoe in 3. Very weird handling of the weather in the early portions of that matchup because you had a very weird tiebreak between the two of them. I believe they had 15 or 17 straight? I think it was 17 straight points in the breaker won by the server. Then they had a weather delay for 22 minutes, and they didn't even let the players go to the locker room. They just made the players wait around courtside for the roof to close. Then they allowed them to warm up a little bit. But either way, I thought they could have done a better job at not freezing the players by letting them go to the locker room or something. The roof takes 10, 15 minutes to close, and even when they closed it, they still had to delay it again because I believe rain was coming in from the side, which caused a little bit of moisture on the court. But either way, it took 22 minutes of delayed tennis in the middle of the tiebreak, which was very, very annoying, especially when Tiafoe had a set point at that point in time, and eventually did get the mini break later on and did win the breaker. Then he lost anyway, so it worked out for Hanfman, but I thought the handling was very poor from the event. I saw Cerundolo beat Manarino in 2 tiebreaks. Fun match there. Rune beat Baez in straight sets. Didn't look good, but Baez isn't good on hard court, so either way, a win nonetheless. Humbert we thought would beat Thompson, and Thompson's really not good against lefties. He was bad once again, as Humbert won in straight sets. Tien came back and then beat Kecmanovic in 3. Thought he'd get the job done. Thought it wouldn't be easy. But either way, you ended up seeing Tien get the job done there. It lost the first set. Actually, that was from the first round, so I guess it's kind of mixing between the first and second rounds. Apologies there. Looking at Makic, who ended up beating Bellucci in straight sets. You saw Pericard beat Nardi in straight sets. You saw Djokovic beat Cilic. Fun matchup there. Only 1 break of serve in the entire match. Djokovic did get it. He won in a breaker in the first set and a 6-4, but nice win nonetheless. Griekspoor ended the spin he was in, I'd say the implosion streak, as he was able to beat Brooksby in 3, all 6-1s. So if you had the over, I feel bad for you because you lost an over with 3 sets because each set had 7 games. That's pretty tough. Munar beat Kaboli in straight sets. You ended up seeing Bergs. That was from the round of 128 as well. You saw Fritz, who ended up beating Morozin in 3 sets. Lost the first set, ended up coming back and winning the final 2 sets in a tiebreak. Nice comeback by him as he won in 3. For the matchups on Saturday, Rublev won the first set, then lost as a minus 350 favorite against Nishioka. After losing, of course, he slammed the racket against the net pole and broke his racket. Classic Rublev, still having a hard time keeping his emotions in check, and either way, ended up getting the job done there for Nishioka. Nice job by him, winning in 3. Saw Nakashima get buried by Maichik. 6-0 in the second set. I'm assuming Nakashima was injured, decided to play through it, because 6-0 for a guy who can serve that well is problematic, and Nakashima got buried. You saw De Minaur win comfortably. Not a surprise. Carabelli, we know, is a clay specialist. He got killed. Nice win by Felix. Ended up beating Tabilo in straight sets. First match as a married man, won in straight sets. Oleshka ended up beating Hallis in straight sets. Brynner Knich ended up beating Mickelson in straight sets. Damn, Mickelson's been terrible lately. Saw Mensik lose in 3 to De Jong. Mensik's been a mess for the last couple months. Nice win by De Jong, though. Saw Zverev beat Royer in straight sets. Moving on, though, you ended up seeing Tien beat Moutet in 3. Common theme so far, lose the first set. He was down 3-0 in the second set, came back, and he won. Nice job by him. Fekina beat Arnaldi in straight sets. Darderi beat Bu in straight sets. Nori ended up outlasting Kaza, lost 6-0 in the second set, came back and won the third set 7-6. Medvedev lost 2 games in his match. Sinner beat Altmaier. Borges beat Vukic, who filled in for Tsitsipas, by the way. Tsitsipas dropped out of the event, and Borges was able to beat the lucky loser in Vukic. And Shang, nice win for him, beating Kashanov in straight sets. We know that Shang, when healthy, is really good. The issue is he's never healthy, but he is now, and he beat Kashanov in straight sets. So decent balance of upsets and, I'd say, favorites coasting, and we picked correctly as we swept the lock and dog. Now, I want to segue to some comments that were made by Zverev after he beat Royer in the match on Saturday. Had some pretty interesting comments about the court speeds, and he mentioned how all of the tournaments seem to be, I'd say, slowing the speeds of the courts down. And it seems like Zverev wasn't happy about it. He had some quotes saying that the tour is slowing down the speed of the courts to basically encourage Sinner versus Alcaraz in the finals all the time. And I have a couple of points. First of all, Sinner and Alcaraz, the slowing doesn't help Sinner at all. It doesn't matter. I mean, Sinner is a great tennis player. Alcaraz has been successful both on fast courts and slow courts. I think that it affects Alcaraz more than Sinner, but Sinner's great on every hard court. I don't think it really matters that much. Alcaraz, I think, can play well on hard, fast courts as well. But Zverev seemed to basically express collusion or conspiracy that the only reason why they're trying to slow down the court speeds is to help Alcaraz and Sinner. So I think that's a really stupid point because they'd be winning anyway. We know that you're looking at the grass courts, and we saw Sinner win the Wimbledon. Alcaraz made the final of that, by the way. We saw the French Open, slower courts. Both guys made the finals as well. I don't think it matters. I think both guys are just so much better than the rest of the tour that the actual speed of the courts is irrelevant. Second of all, Zverev, you should be the last one to talk about complaining about court speeds because the slower court speeds benefit you because you are one of the most passive players in the entire tour who only tries to long rally. You never actually try to showcase the firepower. These slow court speeds should be better for your own game. And yet you can't beat Alcaraz, you can't beat Sinner, you can't beat Medvedev, and you can't beat Fritz. So please, if you're going to make some criticisms about it, you have to actually beat people that are not named Alcaraz and Sinner. But Medvedev owns you, Fritz owns you. You're not close in terms of talent and overall skill set to Sinner and Alcaraz. Just shut up. That's really all I have to say. Zverev, I understand if you're making an overall point that you want to see, I'd say, different tournaments suggest different types of hardcore play styles. I can understand that argument. But making a point, or basically taking a subtle jab at Alcaraz and Sinner, they're in on it, they're the reason why they're slowing down the court speeds, seems very, very, I'd say, dumb, and seems very, very I would just say unintelligent. Like, that's the word I'll use. I just think Zverev sounds like an idiot. And I think he sounds like a guy who's complaining that his title contention has gone by the wayside because two younger guys showed up who are better than him. And I feel like that's kind of bitter from Zverev. But that were my thoughts. I thought he sounded like an idiot during that actual post-match interview. And I'll put it this way. Zverev not winning a Grand Slam, it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Just kidding. I feel like we're all happy he's never won. I think Zverev is a loser, and I think that these quotes are loser, I'd say loser mindset personified. But Zverev, I feel no sympathy for you. I think that you really could have phrased it better. And at the end of the day, beat Fritz and Medvedev, and then we'll talk. Because right now you can't beat either, and you can't beat Alcaraz, and you can't beat Sinner. So my advice would be to just zip it a little bit and try to win more matches. But anyway, that's going to wrap it up for the second round. Time to move on into the preview of the third round in Shanghai. Before we get into the third round preview, reminder, they're brought to you by our sponsor, which is MyBook.ag. You can bet on football, college football, tennis, baseball. Their prop builders are second to none. They have a motto, which is very simple: bet anything, anywhere, anytime. Use crypto for deposits and payouts. You can sign up for a new account. Use code SGPN for a special 100% back bonus $500 for customers. MyBook.ag promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Novig, which is America's #1 sports market. And since Novig's in exchange, we're getting some great prices in the market compared to sports books. It's available at a bunch of cities, 35 plus to be exact. Download the app and use the nice deal that we have with Novig. Get $50 when you spend just $5. If you use the promo code SGPN to get on the actual Novig, promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Cam Podcast. Finished recapping the second round. Time to go into the third round in Shanghai. So, starting off with the actual matches here. For the first match we're going to talk about, going to look at the matchup between where do we want to go for this one? We'll go Humbert versus Rune to start. So Rune is minus 185. I see Humbert around plus 150. For the spread, you have minus 2.5 for Rune, plus 2.5 for Humbert. The over-under is set at 23.5. Now, Rune has owned him in the head-to-head. They faced off 4 times, all on hard court, and Rune is 4-0. However, faced off in Indian Wells earlier this year, and Humbert did win a set, did eventually lose in 3, 7-5 in the final set. But Humbert did give Rune some problems. So Rune tends to win this matchup, but Humbert did make it competitive. And Rune has not been very good lately. We saw him in Tokyo, beat Medvedev, beat Quinn, lost to Brooksby. Then he ended up beating Baez in a very unimpressive fashion in Shanghai in his first match here. So Rune has really not been wowing me lately. I know Humbert's been bad for the last couple months, but he was good against Thompson, and I do think he can make this interesting. I really watching the matchup. Rune was so unimpressive. And even when he was serving for the match, he still got broken against Baez and eventually did break back to win the match. But watching it, cashing the lock play with it, definitely didn't feel easy as the match unfolded. I like the over 2.5 sets here. I think you're looking at what should be a close matchup. I think that Rune might win. If you want to go for Rune in 3, it's available at plus 285. I don't hate that, but I don't mind the over 2.5 sets at plus 130. Think Humbert hangs in there. I think he ends up losing, but if he pulled off the upset, it wouldn't shock me. So give me the over in sets for this one. Think Rune is vulnerable, and I think that Humbert can maybe beat him for the first time. We'll see, but I like the over for this one. Moving on to the next matchup, Fritz taking on Perricard. So Fritz is a decent favorite. Fritz is around minus 380, give or take. Perricard's around plus 290. For the spread, you have minus 2.5 for Fritz, plus 2.5 for Perricard. The over-under is at 24.5. So for this matchup, they face off in Wimbledon. Saw Fritz win in 5. Fun fact, Perricard forced 0 break points in the entire match in 5 sets. We know he can't return. He was able to beat Nardi in the first round. Nardi is a really bad server, so not exactly a shock there. For Fritz, ended up beating Morozin, dropped the first set, came back and won in 3. Did make the final in Tokyo, lost to Alcaraz. So fatigue you thought might be an issue. It wasn't. He played a 3-set marathon, ended up winning. Now, you're looking at what should be a matchup in favor of Fritz because Fritz can actually rally to some degree. Perricard can't. To be honest, I'll go with the over. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel here. I think you might get 2 breakers. I think you're looking at what should be a close matchup. If you want to go for the Fritz team total, 13.5. The over is even money. I don't mind that. You lose a set, goes 3. You pretty much auto win. He can win in 2 breakers or 7-5 in there. I think you're going to end up getting a decent amount of holds and not really any breaks at all. Give me the Fritz team total over 13.5 at even money for the value play for me on this one. Moving on to the next matchup. Going to look at, you know what? We'll go with Nishioka taking on Munar. Pretty fun matchup there. So Munar's minus 185. Nishioka's around plus 150. For the spread, minus 2.5 for Munar, plus 2.5 for Nishioka. The over-under in games at 22.5. Now, for the actual form of both players, Nishioka was god-awful. Then he went through qualifying, ended up beating Noguchi, ended up beating Vukic, then beat Shevchenko in straight sets, and beat Rublev in 3. Nice win for him. Munar, though, we know has been good on hard court this season compared to his normal records, ended up beating Fucsovics in 3 and beat Kaboli in straight sets. Now, I do think it's going to be a pretty competitive matchup. I want to point out they faced off twice. They did split both meetings. One was on clay last year. Munar won. Nishioka, very bad on clay. Faced off in Antwerp 2022, and Nishioka did win in straight sets. I see it being close. Now, I think Munar should be favored because he's been in good form lately, but do I think 185 is a reasonable price? Not really. I think it should be closer to 150 for me. So for value, I think it's on Nishioka. For the actual, I'd say, favorite play that I have in this one, do I think you're looking at what could be a potential marathon? Possibly. I mean, Munar over 12.5 games is minus 129, but we do know that Nishioka is not the best server. He was good against Rublev, but I do think that expecting a breaker is unrealistic, which does hurt the likelihood of the team total getting there. So I think for the sake of this one, I might just trust the form of Nishioka. I'll take him in this one. I think that it's a pretty large number. I think the value is on the dog here. Not saying that Nishioka is guaranteed to win or that I'm picking him to win necessarily, but I do think that 185, 186 is a massive number for Munar. I think that Nishioka, who only dropped one set, including qualifying against Rublev, the only match he's dropped a set in, he looks good. I'll take him in this one to outlast Munar. For value alone, I think this price is too large. Moving on to the next matchup. Look at the matchup between, Greek Sport is going to lose to Sinner, so really no point in that one. You could argue that Greek Sport maybe keeps one set close because he can serve, but I'm good. I think Hoffman, of course, loses to Djokovic, so nothing else to add there. Vacherod against Makic. I mean, do I have much on this one? I mean, Makic has been playing fine. Vacherod beat Bublik, beat Degir, beat Draxel, and beat Basaveretti. Never played in the head-to-head, though. I don't have much, to be honest. I'll mention one match that I ended up skipping accidentally. I'll go to the Cerundolo match, taking on Bergs. So for this one, Cerundolo is minus 175. Bergs is plus 140 for the spread. Minus 2.5 for Cerundolo, plus 2.5 for Bergs. The over-under is at 22.5. Now, for the head-to-head, they have never played. Now, Cerundolo beat Manarino in 2 tiebreaks in his only match here. Did he look great? Not really, but you know what? A win's a win. I'll take it. Now, Bergs, though, was able to beat Ruud, who retired in the 3rd set. He was down a break anyway. He was about to lose. He ended up quitting. Beat Korda in straight sets as well. Now, I know that Bergs' first serve percentage is really ugly. It's why he tends to lose. The first serve's not great. Now, Cerundolo, we know, is not a great hardcourt player. He can be in spurts, but the consistency tends to be lacking. So for the numbers here, I think that 175 feels expensive. I think Bergs can hang in there. I think I'll go for the safe play. I'll go for the Bergs plus the games here at 2.5. Think he hangs in there. I think he can make it, I'd say, respectable. And I think even if he wins or loses, Cerundolo can easily punt the set. We know that he's capable of having a mental breakdown midway through a set. I'll double fault a time or two. Bunch of unforced errors, and Bergs has looked good on hard court lately. Give me Bergs for the value for this one. I'll take the plus games here for the 2.5 at around minus 118. Moving on to the matches taking place on Monday. So for this one, you're looking at the match between, we'll go with Shapo against Leheshka for this one. So Leheshka's favored about minus 175. Shapo on the other end is about plus 132, plus 140, give or take. For the spread, minus 2.5 for Leheshka, plus 2.5 for Shapo. The over-under is at 23.5. Now, for the actual form of both players, Shapo beat O'Connell in straight sets, only match he's played in this event. Leheshka beat Hallis in straight sets as well. He also was in the Davis Cup, ended up beating Tiafoe and beat Fritz in 3. Point is, he's played good tennis. We like Leheshka outright for the event, so I'm going to go with him in this one. I will point out, though, that Shapo has been dangerous in the head-to-head, faced off last year in Belgrade, won in straight sets. That was about a year ago. Not going to read too much into it, but it was a 6-2, 6-1 scoreline, which was surprising nonetheless. Now, Lashka, I think, is the better server. Shapo, I know he was good against O'Connell. O'Connell can be quite inconsistent for a fringe challenger ATP guy. I do think that Lashka is the better player. I think he'll win. I don't mind the team total over, though. I think Shapo can serve well enough to force 7-5 or 7-6, or if Lashka ends up losing, he can still get there. Don't mind the team total over for Leheshka in this one. I think you'll see at least one breaker 7-5 set, which should carry for the prop to cash, or the team total to cash in this case. Moving on to the next one. Look at the matchup between TN and Nori. So for this one, you're looking at TN being minus 140, Nori's plus 115, give or take. For the spread, minus 1.5 for TN, plus 1.5 for Nori. The over-under is at 22.5 games. Now, TN's got more firepower than Nori. Stylistically, pretty similar. Both guys are lefties. They want to rally, and TN's got a bit more firepower. Faced off in Acapulco, TN won in straight sets. Faced off in Hong Kong last year, and Nori won in straight sets. I'll point out that the only meeting this year happened back in February. There was a 7-6 set that TN won as he won in straight sets. So for this one, I thought about the over at 22.5. Do I think Nori's going to serve well enough to actually force a breaker? No promises, but I think the TN team total can be worth a look if it's at 12.5 at a reasonable price. I think you're looking at what should be at least one close set. TN's been punting first sets recently. He's off of a long title, I should say a long final run, and then he came here, lost a set to Kekmanovic, lost a set to Moutet. Think he can drop a set here too. Maybe Moutet to win the first set, TN to win the match. Could be interesting. But I think that the over 2.5 sets could be an option for this one, just based on how frequently TN's been punting sets lately. I do think it's a good idea at plus 125, plus 130. I don't mind that. Give me the over 2.5 sets for this one, or TN, maybe to win 2-1. If you want to go for the Boulder play, that is at plus 280. I don't mind that. I'll go for that in this one. Moving on to the last match we'll talk about, the match between Zverev and Rinderknech. For this one, Zverev is a favorite. Now, he called for the trainer after he won in his match against Royer, complaining, I believe, it was about his foot, and how he felt it every time he tried to serve, but he already won, so he's advancing to the next round. So Zverev in this one is a decent favorite, minus 280, give or take. I see Rinderknech at around plus 220. For the over-under, I see 23.5 games. So for this one, the head-to-head is interesting because you might remember Rinderknech actually beat Zverev in Wimbledon in the first round this past year. So faced off one time in their careers, one time this year, Rinderknech did win in 5. Now, we know his health has been up and down, but he looked good in his match against Mickelson, who's been god-awful recently. Medvedev, he was fortunate against because he ended up getting injured, couldn't handle the humidity and the heat, and he ended up quitting. So he ended up getting a retirement victory, despite not winning a set. Mickelson, though, is not very good. So for Zverev, he ended up beating Royer, who was in good form, went through qualifying in straight sets, made a respectable run in Beijing before losing to Medvedev in a pretty lopsided straight set defeat. So Zverev's a massive favorite. I agree with it. The problem is, do I actually think Rinderknech will win a set in this one? I think he's got a shot. I mean, if Zverev's foot is bothering him that much, and during the match it didn't look that big of a deal, I do think that he's played so much tennis from the Laver Cup onward, they could argue that Zverev is still vulnerable, and maybe there's value on Rinderknech to win a set here. Maybe. I think I'd go for the over if I had to go for something, but I don't feel great about the matchup, honestly. I'm going to pass. I think Rinderknech can make one set close minimum. Maybe he steals one, but Zverev might be below 100%. And the fact is he has been dropping some sets recently to guys he probably should be beating. Beat Royer, ended up losing to Medvedev in straight sets. Lost set to Moutet in the Laver Cup. He ended up getting killed by Fritz and de Minaur in straight sets. Not sold on the current form of Zverev, so I don't mind a shot with Rinderknech to win a set here. I think Zverev will get revenge for Wimbledon, but I think it's going to be close. So I don't mind the games here maybe for Rinderknech in this matchup. It's going to wrap it up, though, for the third round. Time going into the lock and dog picks. Before we get into the lock and dog, reminder brought to you by our sponsor, Arnold Fantasy. Play Fantasy Pick'em for a chance to win 5 times your entry. Pick higher or lower, and your favorite player stats. Available a ton of different sports as well. And a reminder, they have a brand new offer for new customers. Play just $5 if you get $100 bonus funds. So once again, $5, get $100 bonus funds. Use the code SGPN at sign up. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. They're off to a great start in college football, NFL. They have a leaderboard, weekly cash prizes just for tracking your bets in the app. Track 5 bets of the same type for an amount that you build, and you can win 1K. Use promo code SGPN25 when you download the app for a quarter off your first month. Download them. Once again, promo code SGPN25. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Scam Podcast. Finished going through the third round preview in Shanghai. Time to go on into the lock and dog picks. Now, I intentionally skipped 2 matches I was going to return to for the lock and dog. For the lock, I'm going to the Darderi match against Musetti. Give Musetti minus 3.5 games at minus 138. Musetti's been very good on hardcore lately. He's 10-3 straight up in his last 13 hardcore matches. He made the title match in Chengdu, had a couple match points, did not win, but he's still been in good form. Saw him against Comasagna in the first round in his first match post-retirement against Tien, and he was great. He won the second set via bagel. He looked great, and I think he should look sharp here once again. But it seems like the clay specialist in Musetti has no longer been a clay specialist. He's got a hard court now. He ended up making a Wimbledon semi a year or two ago. Point is, he's been better on different surfaces, and hard court has been a serious sign of growth for Musetti. I like the form. Now, Darderi was able to win his first round match as well, ended up beating Bu in the first round. Not a fan of Bu in general. Think he's a challenger level player, basically. But he's still not good in his career on hard court. He is 6-13 straight up in his last 19 hard court matches. Now, Musetti's also 2 in a lifetime against him, but Musetti, simply put, is a better hard court player, a better overall player, and I do think Darderi will not capitalize enough on the deep return position from Musetti. I think it's going to be pretty lopsided, but I'll take the 3.5 games here at minus 138 as my lock for the show. For the dog, I'm going to go back to the Medvedev match against Fokina, a deja vu match from last week. Medvedev killed him in the match a week ago, winning 6-3, 6-3. I'll go for Medvedev alt spread, minus 3.5 games here, plus 124 as my dog. Now, Medvedev has been great in the head-to-head. He's 4-1 lifetime on hard court against Fokina. Faced off about a week ago on September 28th, and Medvedev not only won, he only dropped 6 games. In fact, he got broken 3 times. So Fokina only held serve 3 times in the entire match. And Medvedev ended up having basically a bye in the first 2 rounds. And a bye in the first round, then only lost 2 games in his second round match, winning 6-1, 6-1. Fokina beat Arnaldi, who's been up and down lately. Not an easy match for Fokina. He won, but Medvedev's been better recently. Former champion in these conditions, as he is a former champion of Shanghai. And the fact is, I think you're looking at a good spot for Medvedev to take care of business once again against Fokina, who's not a good server. Think that Medvedev's consistency in the rallies will just force a lot of errors from Fokina, and I can see him mentally imploding again in this matchup. But for the price for a guy that just destroyed Fokina about a week ago, and a guy that's 4-1 in hardcore head-to-head matchups, I think plus 124 is a good price. I'll take it as my dog for the show. So once again, the lock and dog picks of the third round in Shanghai. Lock's going to be on Musetti, minus 3.5 games at minus 138 against Darderi. For the dog in Medvedev, minus 3.5 games at plus 124 against Fokina. Going to wrap it up for the show. Back once again for the fourth round in Shanghai in a couple days. Till next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bats. Bye, everyone.